The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by Rams On Demand, Seat Giant, Vibe 305, and RWO, Rams World Order. Now enjoy the show.
Down the middle, to the end zone, caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows.
It picks. Nickel Roby Coleman
throws. Enzo caught, touchdown. Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp walks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. LaMarcus Joyner returns to the lineup with an interception in London. 35-30. Robert Wood, first down 20. 10-5. Touchdown. LA. No, it's Goff who keeps it. And Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there and comes away with his third sack of the afternoon. Met immediately and sacked. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. And he gets gobbled up. Savage has to eat it as Michael Brockers picks up the sack. He's decked by Ebu Tom. Picked off. Marcus Peters strutting his stuff. Mark Barron the last 4 weeks has been a Pro Bowler.
Oh, it's picked off on the play by John Johnson.
After the throw, and we mentioned that is his 8th completed pass in his career.
Cousins sacked. Ndamukong Suh. Of all the guys, it's the rookie John Franklin Myers who knocks it out of Cousins' right hand. Todd Gurley, 20, 10, Gurley for MVP. Touchdown LA.
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. This is episode 152, and I'm here with Joe Curley. Just wanted to let you know about a certain deal. We've actually partnered up, and we're excited to announce that we've partnered up with Tom's Urban Downtown LA for a watch party this Super Bowl Sunday. This is a can't-miss package for the Super Bowl. $100 before Sunday gets you all you can eat, all you can drink, and we'll tell you more about that later on in the show. My listeners will get additional $20 off, so that'll be $80 as long as you mention that you heard this on the podcast. So that is that, and without further ado, we'll get right into the show. Joe Curley is going to interview me about the Senior Bowl, and we're going to have some interviews on the Senior Bowl. I have all sorts of prospect interviews I got. You're talking Nasir Adderley, you're talking Tyree Jackson, you're talking Gardner Minshew. I got all sorts of guys, so it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to let you guys all know, basically how this whole Senior Bowl thing went. Joe's going to interview me on the Senior Bowl experience, and we're going to roll the interviews, take a quick break, and then we'll let you in on more of Tom's Urban and that whole deal that you have at your fingertips, and then we'll get into the Super Bowl talk, Rams-Patriots. So it's going to be a fun show, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Welcome back, guys, for another... No, just kidding. It's Joe Curley taking over just briefly here on Downtown Rams. Obviously, Jake, his second annual trip to Mobile for the Senior Bowl. Always a really exciting time for Jake. And we just got some quick questions. Obviously, there's bigger fish to fry this week, but the draft is right around the corner. So I have my opinions. He has his opinion. Let's try to figure out where we think the Rams are going to be come April in terms of draft needs. Jake, what would you say when all these draft need stories comes out? What would you predict? What position is going to be number one for the Rams come the April draft?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Joe, because when I think you look at, obviously you have your tertiary needs and a quarterback backup, just because Sean Mannion, guard, Roger Saffold could possibly be a free agent. But really, I think that the main need here is you need a linebacker to pair up, with Corey Littleton. I do, think even though LaMarcus Joyner is a free agent after the season and probably won't be re-signed, despite the fact that his value is probably so low he could be re-signed. I think that they are confident that they have something out there in Blake Countess and Marquis Christian. I think those guys could start relatively soon if say they had to. They also have somebody that they like in the on their practice squad, and that is Stephen Parker, friend of the podcast. So those are some guys out there. But I think with linebacker, they like Micah Kiser. Problem is Micah Kiser, unfortunately, was drafted right after I think. The NFL is about to go into a tailspin with linebacker. It's a copycat league, and I'll tell you right now, when you look at what the Cowboys did to the Rams, obviously they beat the Cowboys, but they employed a defense that had two linebackers that can go sideline to sideline at will. The Falcons did this to the Rams last year in the playoffs. Let's not forget, obviously Deion Jones leading the way there. Linebacker corpses are getting more athletic. You want more sideline to sideline guys. And Corey Littleton plays faster than he really is, if that makes any sense to people. I do feel like the Rams need a guy that's faster. They need a guy that's going to be able to shed blocks because the Rams do struggle with bigger offensive linemen. They do get pushed around, and that's why they get gashed in the run game. And I do think that. In that case, I would say the Rams' biggest need is linebacker. And I actually have some names that I'm looking at.
Well, let's get to that in a second. Let's get this list first. So, I put corner first because I don't, I think obviously all this depends on what you're going to do with your free agents, in terms of Peters, in terms of Sue, in terms of Joyner, in terms of Saffold. And so it's probably kind of, you could almost rank those positions based on, the likelihood of those players coming back. But when I was asked this last week, I said corner, safety, linebacker, guard, backup quarterback, virtually nothing. Hang on, back to receiver. And I also said tight end maybe. If it depends on where you are with Higbee, I think, this was Higbee's, his last year's rookie deal. And I think you got a decision coming up on, whether or not you want to invest in him going forward, if he's earned another deal. But, I think the order I gave was corner, linebacker, safety, guard, tight end, quarterback. And my opinion where I think they should definitely draft a quarterback. Should have done it the last 2 years, one of the last 2 years, just to get Sean McVay working with somebody that he can kind of bring forward and potentially sell for picks. But, or something you can negotiate against Goff's, contract with. But anyway, I think that's a good call. And, now let's go through those positions. And what kind of names at the Senior Bowl? Who did you see at the Senior Bowl in some of those positions that might be, a good fit for the Rams?
Yeah, so I want to start off, first with the quarterback position. I was really impressed to know that the Rams are indeed looking at quarterbacks. They're indeed scouting quarterbacks, and they're interested in quarterbacks. I did speak to. I won't say their names, but I did speak to a couple Rams guys that were scouting quarterbacks. It just seems pretty obvious now. They didn't go last year, and how big I was on Kyle Lauletta. And he really balled out at the Senior Bowl, and he ended up getting drafted in the 4th round. I feel like this is the year. Sean McVay will finally draft his guy behind Jared Goff. There are two names that really come to mind. That I interviewed both of them, and you'll hear that coming up later on. Tyree Jackson of Buffalo. This is quite honestly, Joe. If he hits, he's the best player in this draft. His potential is limitless. He's got some Cam Newton body type. He's mobile, but he's got a gigantic arm that I don't think anybody in this class compares to. And you look at that, and obviously you're well. What's the catch? Why is this guy not considered a first rounder? Why are you talking about him to the Rams? Really, the catch is he comes from Buffalo, so obviously people are going to question, how well he was coached there. They're going to question his level of competition, similar to like they did to Khalil Mack. But really, what it is his inconsistent decision-making is an issue. And this is somebody that has flaws mechanically. Obviously with his arm, he's just kind of a wacky motion that makes it work, but, still kind of a long delivery. You'd like to shorten that up. And the footwork. And the reason I bring him up, Joe, is I thought he played well this week, despite all the hate on Twitter. He should have won the MVP of the Senior Bowl had it not been for a Nasir Adderley interception. And I'll be honest with you, it really excites me that he's meeting with Jordan Palmer, who's a quarterback guru. And, I spoke with him about his footwork.
Carson's brother.
Yeah. And I mean, I spoke with him about his footwork, and he was pretty straight up. He said, look, it's a work in progress, and I'm working with Jordan Palmer, and I'm going to get this thing fixed. Last time I heard I'm going to get this thing fixed was Jared Goff. So.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, quick, give me one name at linebacker, safety, corner, guard, any of those positions here as we go forward.
All right, so guard, I would say Ben Powers, Oklahoma guy. He was a wall. I didn't see him lose any one-on-one matchups, and then I thought he carried it over to the recent Senior Bowl game. Let's see here. Linebacker, I would definitely say New Mexico State has a baller in Terrill Hanks. This is somebody that I have in my latest mock draft. I have him going to the Rams. I just think his film kind of speaks for itself. I was able to get an interview with him. It was quick, but I was able to interview him, and it's coming up later in the show. But Terrill Hanks is very quick to get off his block. One of the more new age linebacker guys. Loves Jalen Smith, loves Deion Jones type of guy, so he molded his game after them. He's a former defensive back, so he's great in coverage, fluid hips, and this is somebody that's really, you're talking, if you can add him in the third round next to Corey Littleton, linebacker won't be an issue for, years. He's that good. And he was all over the place in the game. Corner, I like former Ram Mark Fields, I believe his son, who played for Clemson. I got to interview him. Mark Fields the second. I really like him. I know a lot of people also saw that I interviewed USC's Iman Marshall. I will say that Terrill Hanks earlier did meet with the Rams. I forgot to mention that. And then Mark Fields has met with the Rams, quote-unquote, a lot of times. So that was intriguing. The Rams have drafted Clemson corners before. One of them that we really like, Dexter McLeon, friend of the podcast. And, they did also meet with Marshall from USC. But I like Mark Fields because this is somebody that simply didn't get a lot of time at Clemson. There's obviously a lot of talent there. They just won a national title. For whatever reason, from what I heard is that, he didn't get along with the defensive coordinator, who's kind of a, he's a real hard ass. But, this is somebody that I think has a lot of talent. And when I was looking, there was a guy, Amani Oruwariye. I think I pronounced that right. The Penn State kid that is considered a top 5 corner in this draft. And so I was looking at the big guys. But the guys that really stood out to me were guys like Mark Fields that are getting like 6th round hype, which isn't even hype. And they're showing out against, the best of the best. So I think Mark Fields is a guy, the Rams could definitely look at if they do, let Troy Hill and Sam Shields leave after this year. I know both their contracts expire. And then safety, I really, really like Nasir Adderley, but Adderley's not going to be there. Unfortunately, this is kind of cheating. I would say Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who wasn't actually at the Senior Bowl, makes the most sense for the Rams. He's kind of similar to LaMarcus Joyner, except he's 3 inches taller. I think he's got better ball skills. He kind of the same, can play the slot, can play, outside corner, and can play free safety. Got better every single year, and played with a lot of talent around him, and the coaching staff obviously is there. But if we're going Senior Bowl, I'll give you a guy that I also interviewed, Will Harris. And this is intriguing to me because, Will Harris is somebody that he wasn't even on my radar. I'll be honest. Great interview, great guy, and he's really excited for his buddy John Johnson. The reason I say that is because he's from Boston College. Now, while everyone's talking about Lucas Dennis, Lucas Dennis actually didn't get invited. The free safety didn't get invited to the Senior Bowl. He got invited to the Shrine Game, kind of the tier below it. I don't like to say it's better, worse, or whatever, but tier below it. Now, his counterpart, the strong safety, Will Harris, got invited to the Senior Bowl. Now, I interviewed him before I had even watched him play, truthfully. He was there, and, it's media day, and, so that happens. I watched the Rams meet with him right after practice, and I got to tell you this week, Joe, that kid can play. Strong safety at Boston College, can hit, but man, he can cover. I was so impressed with how well he moved and how fluid he was, and I'm sure the Rams were because they went down and interviewed him immediately. I think that's definitely somebody. Then now you're talking maybe moving him to strong safety and John Johnson at free safety, where they can kind of play, whatever position. I think they're both equipped for both positions, so be a lot of athleticism in the back end, and that'd be a really good pick, and it wouldn't cost you a third or second because he's not getting the talk that other guys are. Like I said, Lucas Dennis, I was kind of guilty of that. I kind of was like, oh, Boston College free safety, but Will Harris, guys, remember the name. He's one to watch. So I think that's everything. Oh, interior defensive line, I'll say this. If the Rams lose Ndamukong Suh and they're able to get Khalen Saunders, I do think Khalen Saunders is better. I think he's a better option. He's got an unbelievable quick first step. He can play, on the outside as a defensive end, or kind of inside, but not really. And he can play the nose tackle. 320 pounds, and I watched this guy do a backflip. I mean, he is incredible. I interviewed him as well. So. And sorry, that's actually pronounced Khalen. He would bash me over the forehead if he heard me say Khalen. So that is that, Joe.
Let's and then do you want to go stock up down biggest standouts overall for the week? Is that good? Beyond the Rams, or
yeah, absolutely.
What do you think?
Yeah. So stock up. I'll give you 3 names I haven't already mentioned just to give them exposure. The first one has to be wide receiver Deebo Samuel, South Carolina. He was, quite honestly, he was unbelievable. I didn't think he was going to be that great, and he absolutely took over the Senior Bowl at the wide receiver position. Whoever was guarding him, he had them on skates. I mean, it was hard. Rocky Sin, a guy that the Rams like, and I saw them meet with him, during the Senior Bowl. He was on him, and he's a really good corner. He's considered one of the better corners in Mobile, and I mean, Deebo won that matchup more often than not. So I've heard that he's don't fall in the trap. He's Pharaoh Cooper because he's a gadget guy, because he's not a gadget guy, and I've heard that he's a lot better than Pharaoh Cooper. So. Before you get those South Carolina wide receiver biases out there, stop it. Next, I would bring up the name. It's tough because I want to give everyone equal exposure. Let's say, Well, I mean, I'll say this right now. Drew Lock, I was not a huge fan of. I thought Drew Lock played really well. In the practices and obviously in the game. I mean, it's not really. They don't want to play the the highest graded guy a lot, as you saw last year. I mean, Baker Mayfield, number 1 overall pick, barely played in the Senior Bowl game. So he didn't play a lot, but throughout the practices, he kind of separated himself. I think Tyree is right up there, but he separated himself, and I would definitely give that to him. And then I would probably say Montez Sweat, even though he declined my interview, and I'm a little salty about that. Not really, but no, it was good. It led to me getting Tyree Jackson and Gardner Minshew after practice, so I'm okay with it. And the Rams won't be able to draft him anyway. But Montez Sweat really made a lot of money during the Senior Bowl. Just somebody that came in as a 4th or 5th rusher. I mean, he's right up there with the best of the best. He absolutely dominated in one-on-ones, and it was just really impressive. And I mean, he was wow. I remember watching him take off Titus Howard, Alabama State offensive tackle. He took off his jersey, got up in his grill and took off his ripped off his jersey. Joe, these were some mean dudes. If anyone wants an offensive lineman in this draft because they want a guy with a mean streak, there are about 7 guys. I mean, and then the defensive line equaled that. So, those are my stock ups. Did you want me to do stock down? Yes. No.
Oh, sorry, I had you on mute. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, that's what you feel
taking
about
a
me.
little wander around the house. My bad. No, it was for your benefit. I was making sure the kids were asleep. Yeah, give me the stock downs quickly, and then I want to hear about the 2 head coaches.
Okay, so stock down Daniel Jones, Duke quarterback. I don't think it's fair that people are giving this guy first round buzz, not just because he doesn't deserve it, because he doesn't deserve it for the accolades and the promise and everything. I don't think it's fair for him because I don't think he's ready for it. He struggled in every interview I ever saw during the Senior Bowl. This just seems like a guy, again, he could end up being something. But Joe, I'll be honest with you, he has the same coach that Peyton Manning and Eli Manning had. That was his coach in college, I think his offensive coordinator or his quarterback coach or whatever. So people are talking him up because of that, and I just think there's gonna be a team that gives up a ton of draft capital for this kid, and he's not gonna be ready. And that would worry me if I had Daniel Jones really high on my board, but I don't. So that was a stock down for him. I know he won the Senior Bowl MVP, but I mean he had a 20-yard. He had a bubble screen that went 20 yards by Andy Isabella for a touchdown, and then he had a quarterback keeper at the goal line. So take that for how you will. I don't really put a ton of stock into the MVP game unless it's when I predict the guy and he ends up throwing for 3 touchdowns like Kyle Lauletta last year. But yeah, I would say stock down for him. Another stock down, I'd say Amani Oruwariye. I mentioned him earlier. This is a guy that he was trying to get in that conversation with Byron Murphy and Greedy Williams and DeAndre Baker, and I just don't feel like he's there. Is he good? Yes, he's a good corner. I don't know where I would rank him at this moment, but I don't think he's among the best of the best, and I do think he was outplayed by guys that were considered lesser talents coming in, mainly guys like Corey Ballantyne from Washburn, which you probably don't even know where Washburn is, and I mean he outplayed him. So I would say that's stock down as well. And then it's kind of tough for me because, I mean, there's obviously, multiple guys. I would say offensive tackle Max Sharping from, I believe, Northern Illinois. I lost track of how many holds this guy had in practice and the game combined. He didn't look like he belonged. I'm just gonna say that right now. He had a really rough time, and obviously, it's 1 week. It's a different atmosphere and everything, and sometimes the Senior Bowl gets the best of guys, and I'll give Daniel Jones, and I'll give I'll give Max Sharping, and I'll give Amani Oruwariye the benefit of the doubt, But as far as stock down, it was definitely this week. I'd say those three, mainly because Oruwariye had such a, he had a high hype train, as well as Daniel Jones. Sharping didn't really have a lot of hype coming in, but I mean, he really struggled.
All right, and you got to meet the Bay Area's two head coaches. What what can you tell me about? Tell me that story. What was it like meeting Shanahan and Gruden?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. They're really nice guys, obviously. John Gruden, he had this helmet sticker thing, which I thought was really funny, and people were making jokes about. It was like, John, you actually have to draft the player. It doesn't work that way to just put your Raider helmet sticker on their helmet.
He thinks he's recruiting.
But no, it was fun talking with them. It was nothing like serious or anything. I asked Kyle Shanahan to come on the podcast, and he kind of was like, we'll see. Probably not, but it was it was pretty cool. Gruden's somebody that I've always admired. Watching football. I remember when he won the Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, and just that whole thing. And Kyle Shanahan's not somebody that I ever really knew much about. I mean, obviously I knew where he was. I've never really watched any media coverage of his. I don't know. I just don't watch like 49er press conferences or anything. And they haven't been really good, so it's not like he's been on ESPN or whatever. So, I got a chance to see him, and man, I really like him. I think the 49ers have a really good young offensive mind, and we're talking about the Rams now with Sean McVay, and rightfully so. But after seeing Kyle Shanahan this week, I would not be shocked if that 49ers team ends up surpassing the Seahawks and being that number 2 team to watch out for. Because quite honestly, I think, and people will disagree with me, but I feel like they've overachieved. They haven't had as much talent as people make it out to be. They still have so much to improve on. And I do feel like, for whatever reason, Kyle Shanahan, he's not getting talked about, but he's turning guys like C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins into decent quarterbacks in that offense. So I think that's something there's something to be said there, and I think that he definitely needs some more credit. I think he'll get that this upcoming year. And I'm interested, Joe. John Gruden had a rough first year. He was also forced to trade away Khalil Mack, because the team wouldn't pay him. Mark Davis doesn't like paying anybody, so that's why that happened. It wasn't because Reggie McKenzie didn't want to. It wasn't because John Gruden. It was because the owner doesn't like paying guys that much money. So let's just get that out of the way. But I think Gruden, had his moments this year. They, obviously their big, their one shining moment was definitely beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, who ended up not going to the playoffs, and they looked like a playoff team. They probably drove them over the rails after that game, and I think they'll be back. It's going to take a little bit. I don't know what they're doing with Derek Carr, but John Gruden's going to get a hold of this thing. He's going to realize that it's not the same game he coached before. And he's just getting his feet wet in this new era of football, and I think he's going to catch on pretty quickly. And when you have a guy like Mike Mayock as GM, I think it's definitely possible, since he's been scouting all these guys. I mean, that's been his thing. So I'm really intrigued. I was hoping to meet Mayock. I just missed him literally every time. He left the press box right before I got there, and so that didn't work out. But overall, a lot of fun. Met Vrabel, McDermott. I saw John Harbaugh sign his contract extension on a bench. So, it was a lot of fun. And obviously I spoke with Jerry Jones again, who is probably my favorite there. Like, if we're talking to anybody, I mean, he's funny. He is a funny guy and has a lot to talk about. So that would be that.
So all in all, it was worth the cost and the effort and the time to get back down to Alabama and prepare yourself for, what'll be a pretty important Rams NFL draft.
100%. I get some people are a little surprised that I was going there and choosing to go there over Atlanta. In response, I would say Atlanta was never, a possibility It's just too darn expensive, and I don't have NFL credentials at this moment. I am working on getting them, though. We'll get into that later. But, you know, I feel like I have to do this. Anyone that loves the NFL draft, or that just loves networking, or that just loves the idea of getting to meet, you know, NFL coaches and GMs and all of that, and meeting all these young, promising scouts, do it. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, Super Bowl, you need media credentials. The Combine, you need media credentials, like NFL. The Senior Bowl is more laxed. So I don't want to, you know, crap on what I've built, and obviously, you know, the fact that I got credentialed there and everything, but they are more relaxed about who they let in, and that's a good thing, because, you know, at the Combine, you actually have to go through the NFL. It's not like, you know, the Senior Bowl, you know, committee or anything like that. So, you know, that's my recommendation, is if you're into it, just go out and do it. Go to the practices if you can't stay for the game. And if you want that press box, you know, experience, then don't go to the practices and go right to the game. You know, it's that simple. I think, you know, it's easy to say I can't do it, but, you know, you just make it happen. You do it, and then afterwards you're like, wow, I have all these amazing connections, and you know, they last, you know, they last a long time. So sometimes it's just worth it. Sometimes, you know, staying in your comfort zone is not the best option. It might feel the best option, but, you know, once you step out of that comfort zone, you'd be surprised how amazing it is. And Joe, I mean, obviously, I know you as a reporter, you've interviewed so many people face to face, and for me last year that was the first time, and even this time, since I don't really do that, you know, unless I'm at the Senior Bowl, the first few interviews you'll hear, I mean, I'm not as confident as, say, the end of the interviews, where I start really gaining confidence, and I think that's really, you know, what it takes is, you know, you have to kind of step out of your comfort zone and take that next step. So if you're interested in something like that, or even if you're just media and you're just trying to, you're just straight up trying to write stories and, you know, get to know these people, just do it. You'll be happy. So that's all I have to say, Joe. I thought it was a fantastic trip. I got there in one piece. I do think coming back, you know, the tease of being in Atlanta the week before the Rams would be there for the Super Bowl, that you know, definitely became a tease. But it was also bittersweet, you know, being in the airport and seeing all the merch, and there was Rams Super Bowl merch and Patriot. It was just, it seems surreal.
Yeah, I'm glad you're able to do that. I think it's a valuable, you know, it's good that the Rams, you know, kind of, what do I label you? A fan site, or, you know, that whatever you are,
well,
you know, podcaster, you know,
yeah.
that the Rams fan, you know, community needs to have, you know, I feel like you're the eyes and the ears of, you know, you know, prospecting, and it's a shame that more of us aren't able to do it, but you know, obviously, you know, the beat crew have more important things to do this week, but this is all happening, and but you did not see Les Snead in Mobile.
I did not. I did talk to a few Ram scouts who, I gotta say, Joe, I was pretty pumped. One of them, who is actually pretty, I gotta say, I mean, he's been there since Fisher was there. But I mean, he's a pretty nice dude. And quick story before we get into everything. I'm in the press box, and, you know, I'm going over to get some food, and I'm looking for I was looking for the utensils, couldn't find them. They were in this, Joe, they put plastic see-through utensils in a plastic giant bowl, so you couldn't see them. so it was funny because the guy comes up to me, when the Ram scout, and he's like, "Hey man, like, do you know where the utensils are?" And I was just like, and I found them while he was talking to me. I was like, "Oh, they're right here." And you know, I peeped the fact that I saw, you know, his credentials said, you know, Rams, you know, area scout or whatever. So started talking with him, and, you know, I introduced myself, like, you know, Jake Ellenbogen, Downtown Rams. He's like, oh, Downtown Rams, I know you guys. Like, and like he, you know, he watches. He's like, yeah, we follow you guys. We follow, you know, the turf show times. He's like, we're always watching. So, you know, I thought that was cool, and you know, he liked what I was doing, appreciated it, and you know, he wanted to get the approval from Les to see if he could come on the podcast. So that would be pretty awesome. Obviously, if he can't blame him. You know, the Rams have run a really tight ship, and I think that's part of the reason why they've developed such an amazing culture. They don't let anything get out. You know, the things that get out are the things that, you know, maybe like they weren't supposed to get out, or they plant them, but like no one heard about the Brandon Cooks trade, Joe. Like no one. So, you know, things like that. I just think, you know, that's a pretty big thing, and yeah, it was just it was a cool experience, and I'm just glad because last year, and this is what I told the guy, I was like, look, I couldn't find any Ram scouts last year. That doesn't mean they weren't there. They were definitely there, but you know, you could be on one side of the stadium and they're on the other, and you might never see them. So, but a lot of fun. And I'll definitely, no matter what, I'm doing it next year. I'm just going to say that. So,
gotta make it work. All right, well, let's how we transition here to a bowl of a different kind.
Yes, but before we do, here are all of the Senior Bowl interviews, so you guys enjoy.
Oh, there we go.
And we're going to take a quick break, and then, you know, we'll have our we'll mention that Tom's Urban downtown LA deal that I mentioned earlier, and then we'll talk about the big one, Joe, the big Super Bowl game, Rams-Patriots, 17 years to the day rematch. All right, I'm here with Tyree Jackson, Buffalo quarterback. How's it going, man?
It's going real well. You know, it's been a great week, and it's been a great time to come out here and compete with some of the best in the country. So I'm very happy, and I'm excited to get out there for the game Saturday.
Absolutely, and you know, you're here with Anthony Johnson, of course. I interviewed your other teammate, Khalil Hodge. What was it like playing with those two?
Oh, it's unbelievable. You know, those guys are great players, but they're also great teammates. You know, I have a great relationship with both of them, and getting to spend the week with AJ again, you know, after the last game, I might have thought that was the last time we'd get to play together. So it's just a blessing to get back out here with him and watch him do his thing.
Absolutely. What was that whole process like? Obviously, I know the whole transfer rumor and everything, and then you come out here. I was really excited for you to get the call up. What was that whole thing like? Yeah,
after the last game, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to declare, and it's been awesome. You know, just finally getting that weight off your shoulder and getting those decisions out of the way of coming out and declaring. And it's been awesome, like I said, to be with the best and continue to train with the best, you know, here and out in California with Drew and Jarrett. So it's just been a great time, and I'm excited for the process.
Absolutely, and you know, you stand at 6'7". I'm looking at you. You're really tall, obviously. You know, who's been your? I guess if you had to compare your game, who would you compare your game to?
You know, I loved watching a lot of Ben Roethlisberger growing up. You know, him coming from the MAC conference from Miami of Ohio. He's someone I've kind of looked up to and emulated it and liked his game a lot. So I would say him, and then you gotta know that Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, I mean, they're at the top of the game right now, so continually watch them as well.
Absolutely. And one last thing, just because I'm for Downtown Rams, have the Rams met with you at all?
I've spoke to them a little bit, and you know, it's just been a process. You know, they're in the Super Bowl right now, and that's exciting, and a lot of good stuff is going on there, and it's awesome for them.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you so much, Tyree. I appreciate it. Good luck with everything. All right, I'm here with Gardner Minshew, Washington State quarterback. How's it going today?
I was good, man. Had a good day. Last real day of practice. Man, it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. It's been fun watching you all around and everything. And, you know, you're one-year starter at Washington State. What was that like taking over for Luke Falk?
Man, it was awesome. Yeah, it's big shoes to fill. You know, Pac-12's all-time leading passer. Guy that's won a lot of games there. And, man, he definitely laid a foundation, and the guys before him and the senior class I was part of all laid a foundation of success, and I was glad to be part of it.
Absolutely, and obviously you play in the Pac-12, and there's a lot of good players. Who was the toughest opponent that you went up against in the Pac-12?
Yeah, I thought it was player Brad and I from Utah, number 6. Man, he's a tough dude, had a high motor, really got after us all day.
And if you could pick anybody that you've molded your game after, you're kind of like, who would you pick?
You know, you'd like to say Breeze. You know, he's the guy I've always looked up to, though. And, try to emulate. Just because, man, everything that he can control, he does. He can't control how tall he is, how fast he is, how far he can throw. But everything he can work on, he's going to work his tail off to make sure he's the best.
Absolutely, and I know they're kicking us off right now. But one last question. I'm with Downtown Rams. I just wanted to know if the Rams have met with you so far.
Yeah, I've met with the Rams a couple times.
Awesome.
Man, that'd be a great spot. Coach McVay, one of the best offensive minds in football. Best of luck to them in the Super Bowl. It's going to be a fun game. See if they dethrone the Pats.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I appreciate it, man. You take care. Stay healthy.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm here with Trace McSorley, quarterback, Penn State. How's it going, man?
Good. First day getting out here, just excited to getting on the field and playing with everyone.
Yeah, obviously it's really cold out. I don't know if you're feeling it, but
No, I'm all right now. I got ran around. I'm all good.
Yeah, no, I feel that. What's been your biggest, thing about today? Biggest takeaway?
Just getting out and executing for the first time, being in the system, coming out, taking command of the huddle, and getting out and executing.
And now, obviously it's college all-star game, but you played with the likes of Saquon Barkley and, of course, Chris Godwin. Obviously, tight end, that's name escapes me right now. Gesicki, yeah. Do you think that really prepared you, obviously, to play around this talent and everything?
I think it definitely helped being around guys like that, getting used to the speed of those guys, having where to put the ball, and guys who can adjust and go get it. So I think it did kind of help my development.
And if you had to pick a player that you molded your game after, who would you pick?
Drew Brees, this guy I've always studied, just how consistent he is year in, year out, always at the top of the league, always in top 5 guys really for the last 15 years, I think. So his consistency, and obviously there's a lot more that makes him who he is outside of what he does on the field. But just watching on the field how he slides, finds his lanes to get the ball to the receivers.
Absolutely, and obviously I'm short, and you'd be considered short. Us short guys, obviously you yourself, everyone's looking for the 6'6" quarterback. What do you say to those people?
Yeah, I think if you can play, you can play. It doesn't matter how tall you are. You just control the things you can control, and that's how you come out, your attitude, your leadership, your demeanor in the huddle, how you take control of guys. And when you get down to the game of it, if you can make the throws, get it to your guys in open space, and you'll be good.
What would you say is your biggest strength?
I think my biggest strength is my leadership ability, being able to control guys, take command of a huddle, and getting guys to believe in me and coaches trusting in me.
And your biggest thing you have to improve on?
Consistently being accurate from the pocket. My feet will get a little bit out of whack at times, kind of controlling to make sure I'm always being accurate consistently.
Favorite team growing up?
I grew up in Ashburn, Virginia, so I grew up a Redskins fan.
All right. Hey, appreciate it, Trace. You take care.
Thank you.
Stay healthy.
That's it. Thank you.
Got it.
All right. I'm here with Bruce Anderson, running back, North Dakota State. How's it going today?
It's going good, real good.
Good. What can you tell, everyone about, this whole experience and everything you're going through?
The experience is amazing, just kind of soaking it up in, being with the best of the best, and just going to be able to compete come today, so just really excited.
Absolutely. What are you most trying to improve, today?
Just that I can play with the best of the best, like I said. It's just a heck of an opportunity. Fortunate to be here, and just can't wait for practice to start, later days practice to start, and just put the cleats on and just strap it up on Saturday and just go after it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you come from North Dakota State, and obviously you're not Alabama, but you're the Alabama of the FCS. What is that like? And then, coming and playing, with the SEC talent and everything.
I think it kind of prepares us because playing in the Missouri Valley Conference is not an easy schedule by any means. Our opponents are tough. So we just able to compete with the best in our conference and just come out here and compete with the best in the country.
And over the years, who would you say you've molded your game after?
I would just say all the top running backs in general. I look at all the guys that are doing things right on the field and off the field and kind of take why they're so successful and add that to my game.
Absolutely. And, obviously running backs, did you have a favorite team or anything like that?
No favorite team. I just love football. I love the game.
I see this a lot where, you talk to a prospect. Really, it's not just like the NFL or I like football in general. What got you started with the NFL game?
Just the physicality, how big guys like that move so agile, just how everything kind of came together. Just always been a passion of mine. Just watching football, playing football is something I loved at a young age, and it's something I will continue to love.
Absolutely. How many teams have reached out to you so far throughout this draft process?
A bunch of different teams. Probably almost all of them, stuff like that, just reaching out, talking with me, just meeting people, and just letting them get to know me.
Now, do you have a mentor potentially in the NFL?
I have a couple mentors just even through college and in high school. I had a mentor back home, Marshall McDuffie. He was kind of my trainer early on, helped me transition to college. I have another mentor, Ben Newman, who just kind of helped me refine my game in college, and he's been with me throughout this process going forward, and the same mentor Marshall McDuffie has too. So they've all kind of been helping me throughout this journey.
Awesome. And what would you say is your biggest strength, what you bring to the table as Bruce Anderson?
Just versatility. I think I'm able to play any position on the field, special teams. I can do it all. I'm a workhorse. So
I think your tape really stands out. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Appreciate you.
Take care. All right, I'm here with Oli Udoh of Elon. How's it going, man?
Pretty good.
How's this whole thing been for you?
It's been a pretty quick turnaround from being at the Shrine Game a couple days ago to coming down here and competing.
Yeah, you balled out, got the call up. How was that?
It was pretty exciting. I got that. I think it was like Thursday afternoon. I found out, and I was just really excited. Just going through the logistics, and then playing in the Shrine Game on Saturday. I think I did a pretty good week down there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were a lot of big names down there. Who was the toughest opponent, if you could pick one, that you went up against at the Shrine Game?
Probably the D tackle from Cincinnati and then the Oklahoma State defensive end, because I played both guard and tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. And then today, obviously, you come from Elon. What's it like, going to a school like that and then coming out here and going up against the Alabamas of the world?
It's just, it's crazy.
Yeah, let's go this way.
It's just, like I keep saying, it's just been a really humbling. These past 2 weeks have been a really humbling experience, and getting to know more about my game, playing against some of the better competition in the world. So it's just been awesome, really, just to learn from this experience and apply it forward as I try to play professional.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there a specific player that you kind of looked up to that molded you into what you are today?
Not really. I watched Cowboys offensive line film, and I watched the Eagles offensive line film, but not a specific player per se.
And what's one last impression that you want people to leave on people?
That just because I'm from a hard school small school doesn't mean I'm not a hard worker, and that I can't play with these guys, basically.
Absolutely. Hey, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And you stay healthy.
Will do.
Take care.
Oh, this is my
Hey, Khalen. Hey, amazing game. What's this whole week been like for you?
It's been busy, to say the least.
One player, if there is one, that might have molded your game. You might have molded your game after.
One guy. I look up to the DeMarcus too. The way he powers guys. That's really my strength in my game is my power.
That's pretty crazy because, you know, I'm for downtown Rams, and DeMarcus too happens to be playing Super Bowl for the Rams. You know, can you talk a little bit about that? The Rams met with you at all?
I actually meet with them today.
How about that? How about that? Them today. And you know, for instance, obviously you mentioned Sue, and you know, there's Donald on that line. Do you feel like you could fit in a situation like that?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And what would be your role? You know, at the next level, preferred role?
A power guy. I'm just here to show that I can pass rush, really. So,
absolutely,
be a pass rush guy first. I really want to show them everything that I have.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And what would you say is the one thing they really have to improve on?
Pass rush.
Pass rush.
Pass rush.
And you know, obviously, the NFL, you're going to go up against a lot of competition. But you played at Florida State, so you went up against really big competition there. Here's the thing. You know, you probably went up against a bunch of different people. Who would you say is the biggest, competitor that you went up against in college?
Biggest competitor I went up against in college? I want to say the guard from Wake Forest, number 74.
Number 74?
Haynes. Phil Haynes. Yes,
Phil Haynes. There we go.
Very strong guy.
I like it. And what's one last impression that you want to leave on Mobile and scouts and fans alike?
Show them I'm hardworking and that I have a motor. That one day I could be the greatest pass rusher. Do it. So
get it done, man.
Yes,
Stay healthy.
Yes,
hey,
sir.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting you. You take care. Thanks, man. All right, I'm here with John Cominsky, Charleston defensive lineman. How's it going today, man?
It's going good. Just finished the third practice. Really excited about what I did this week. Took a step forward each day, and that was the main goal for me, is just to get better every day. I know these scouts want to see me improve every day, so I think that I've done a good job with that. So
I would definitely agree so far. And you know, what's it like coming from Charleston to Mobile and playing with the best of the best?
Yeah, you consider the crowd today at practice. You know, I didn't see a crowd like this at any game. And my biggest games of my career, at the Division II level, University of Charleston, I'd never seen a crowd like this, and this is a practice. So it's pretty overwhelming. I think I'm really grateful for, you know, what I'm going through right now, and I think I probably appreciate it more so than the kids that are from Power 5 schools and have seen it all. So.
And what would you say is your biggest strength that you bring here that maybe someone else does not?
Yeah, I think anybody would agree that my hustle is, a top of the line out here. I'm flying around. You're going to see me screaming down the field. Everybody's making comments about, number 5 screaming down the field and hustling. So I've taken pride in finishing the play and just having a relentless effort. So,
what's the one thing you're trying to work on, improve on?
My skill set just as a whole. There's some technicalities that I need to work on. I have the effort and I have the mentality for it. It's just there's some technical things that I need to clean up on, utilizing my legs a little bit more, being better with my hands, just all the technique that comes with D-line I need to improve on.
Absolutely. Have the Rams met with you yet?
I have met with the Rams a couple times. So,
you have met with the Rams a couple times. And if you had to pick a player, comparison, who would you compare your game to?
I like to say J.J. Watt. It might sound far-fetched, but I'm a similar body type, and he plays inside and outside, which I've shown that I can do. So I like to think that I resemble J.J. Watt a little bit. So.
Last question. What would be your preferred role in the NFL if you could choose anything?
Well, I definitely want to be a part of a defensive line room. I would love to have some special teams reps, and I eventually want to become a leader of the defensive line room and perhaps the whole team. That's kind of what I worked up to in college, and I kind of took pride in being a captain my junior and senior year in college. So, year 3 and 4, once I earned that team's respect to become a captain is kind of the goal right now.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
you. Cominsky, take care, man.
It was really good. Feel like you helped yourself out here this week in the game?
Most definitely I did. I was able to take different coaching and apply it to my game.
Where do you go from here? You got the combine coming on up. What will you be doing now after this? Get ready for everything else.
As soon as I land in LA, went right back to Exos, right back to work. I got the combine in March.
Thank you very much.
Terrill, you've put on just some unbelievable tape that I've watched. What was your favorite game that you played in this year so far?
That's a good question. I'd say my favorite game would be the BYU game because I'm coming off my ankle injury. I have to say that.
Absolutely. And, of course, with all the new athletic linebackers coming into the NFL, I feel like you fit the mold. Who is, if you have one, who would be, like, your comparison to your game?
Jalen Smith.
Jalen Smith?
Yes, sir.
Jalen Smith. And real quick, have the Rams met with you at all?
Yes.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, I'm here with Rocky Sid from Temple. How's it going, man?
I'm just going good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. How's this whole week been for you?
A great learning experience. Just coming out competing with the best guys in the country is just great.
Absolutely. Who's been the hardest competition to go up against today?
Probably going against Debo.
Debo?
Yeah, me and him been going at it all week, man. Just coming out
seeing
competing.
it.
Yeah, it's been great competition. I'm loving it. It's getting better.
What got you into football?
My wrestling coach.
Wrestling coach.
Wrestling from 11th grade. He had me go out and lift weights with the football team, and then I fell in love with the sport. And that was it.
That's awesome. And if you could compare your game to anybody, who would that be?
The thing I'm playing corner is I feel like all the corners in the league, we all got different. The corners in the league have different like body sizes and shapes and lengths and different strengths as far as speed, athleticism. So it's hard to compare my game to any one corner.
Absolutely. And what's the one thing, if you could pick anything, that you're looking to improve on and show to scouts that you can really do that?
I think I'm showing I can come out and compete with anybody. I mean, no matter what school they're from, what conference, just come out and compete.
And lastly, because I'm downtown Rams, has the Rams met with you at all?
Yes, sir. I talked to the Rams.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate it, man. You take care. All right, I'm here with Mark Fields, Clemson defensive back. How's it going, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How was this whole experience?
Yeah, it was a great experience, man. Got some great work. Got to come out here and compete with the best. Feel like I got better. Just looking forward to the process.
Absolutely. Now, you didn't play a ton at Clemson, but I thought you were one of the big ones that really showed out this week.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the toughest person that you went up against this week?
In practice?
Yeah.
I'll probably say Debo. Debo, Hunter, Renfro, them boys. Been going against Debo since my freshman year, so I would say Debo, yep.
Absolutely. And who's been your biggest, idol, growing up and everything to get you to this point?
Probably my mom, man. My mom sacrificed a lot to get me to where I'm at today, so I give all the credit to her.
Absolutely. And one quick question, I don't want to keep you all day. Have the Rams met with you so far?
Yeah, I've met with the Rams a lot, actually.
Awesome.
Yes,
Glad
sir.
to hear it, man.
All right.
Hey, good luck with everything. You stay healthy, and you take care. I appreciate your time.
All right, appreciate it. All right.
All right, so I'm here with Iman Marshall, Biggie Marshall, USC. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well, thank you. You played well today. I thought you played well this entire week. How would you describe this whole week in a nutshell?
I describe this week in a great experience. A great experience to have the ability to compete against some top level different players in this senior class. So having this opportunity to play with those dudes, having an opportunity to be coached by some legendary coaches and stuff like that, and some legendary people was a blessing. It was truly a blessing.
Absolutely. Who was the toughest opponent you went up against this week?
There was a lot of talented receivers out there. I wouldn't say it wasn't one person, but you had multiple. You had Ohio State receiver. You had Keenan Dawes from UC Davis. You had Debo that was really talented. He got me a couple of times at the beginning of the game and stuff like that. So it was a lot of good work.
Yeah, and of course, coming from USC, you obviously practice with Sam Darnold, and you know what it's like to go up against a big top quarterback. Do you think that prepared you at all for this week?
I feel like it's always prepared me, but it's always prepared me. Yes, sir.
Absolutely, and obviously this year was somewhat of a down year, and you've been through the highs and the lows. Do you think that really prepares you for the next level?
Of course, and understanding that you have to give your all no matter what the situation, the circumstances is. Prepare you how to deal with it, prepare you how to deal with adversity, and prepare you how to deal with failure. What type of person it shows your determination, what type of character you want to be. And that's why I really appreciate this whole year. It gave me an overall, this whole plan for USC gave me a great experience, just on good terms and bad terms. I'm truly thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not, everybody gets a chance to go from that to, a down year and everything, and you get a chance to feel, taste the good flavor, and then, of course, have, obviously, you played well throughout the whole thing. If you had to pick one player that you could compare your game to, who would that be?
I like to look at myself as a Terrill Revis type dude. I like to play. I like his game really a lot. He was very technically sound. That's something that I really try to model my game after and stuff like that. So he's somebody I look up to.
Awesome. And lastly, the big time question, because I am from downtown Rams. Have the Rams met with you so far?
Yes, they have. They have met with me. It was a good conversation. I appreciate them. And, it's nothing like LA.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you so much.
Man,
Take care.
You
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, I'm here with Will Harris, Boston College defensive back. How's it going, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. What's this whole week been like so far?
It's been a blessing, to be here and, play with some of the top talent around the country. Heard a lot about these guys, seen a lot of these guys on TV, playing in their games. So, it's just fun, for us all to be here, and compete. And, the layout here has been everything top notch. It's been first class. Everything from the hotel, the activities we do, the gear. It's all first class. So I'm definitely enjoying the Senior Bowl to the fullest.
That's good to hear. Now, what brought you to this point? What do you have a football story? Did you pick it up early? Did you start late?
Right.
How did that go?
Right. Well, my father played football. He played growing up. He's from Mississippi. Ended up going to Mississippi State. And played in the league for a couple of years. So my father actually played in the NFL, and I have some other family members who also played in the NFL. So I believe, that's something that I've always wanted to do since I was very young.
Yeah, absolutely. And you yourself, you're at Boston College. What made you want to go to that school?
Recruitment, to be honest. In the type of people there, they recruited me heavy and they recruited me often. They were my first offer, which meant a lot to me. And every visit I took up there, it just felt like home. The people, the players that were there, the people that were there, the coaches. You match all that with we're playing in the ACC Power 5 football. And you match that with the academics of the school. It speaks for themselves. So it was just a perfect place for me, and I felt like it was home.
Yeah, absolutely. And, being downtown Rams at all, we have a really good safety that comes from Boston College and John Johnson III.
Yep.
But we also have two good, you got two good DBs, you, yourself, and obviously Lucas Dennis. Can you talk, about him at all? And, what's it like playing with him, alongside him?
Right. Well, playing alongside him definitely made my job easier as the other safety. That's another guy with great football IQ, a natural playmaker, a guy who has great instinct and plays with a lot of anticipation, a good physical tackler. You can't really run away from him. Plays with a lot of technique and good fundamentals, and goes up and make plays on the ball in the air.
What would you say is your biggest strength?
My biggest strength is my versatility, my flexibility within my position. The fact that I can, go out on the island in the slot and play man. We were a multiple defense, so I'm very comfortable playing any zone coverage, wherever that may be. I'm very comfortable playing near the line of scrimmage. Whatever a team needs me to do, I'm very comfortable in doing it.
And what do you think you need to work on the most?
Well, I'm not sure if there's something, that, is a dire need for me, but, I work on man coverage all the time. I'm a big proponent of you can't ever get enough man work in because, especially at this next level, everyone's bigger, stronger, faster, with more experience. So you definitely need, as much man work, especially in this process, as you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we mentioned John Johnson earlier. Have you talked to him at all? Does he keep in touch with you guys, back at Boston College?
Right, I talk to him. All the DBs. We all talk all the time. John, Justin Simmons, who came out a year before him. Isaac Yadam and Cam Moore came out last year. All of us, we're all in the group chat. We all keep in touch all the time. So
it's starting to carve out a little DBU.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm glad to see him doing his thing. He had a game sealing pick the other night, and I'm really excited to see what he does in the Super Bowl.
So am I, man. So am I. And lastly, if you had to compare yourself to one player, what would that be?
I look at a lot of Malcolm Jenkins film, to be honest, and I'm a huge Malcolm Jenkins fan. Just the way he plays the game. First of all, the kind of guy he is, his character, but also the way he plays the game, the way he's versatile, and the way I take pride in being, a guy who can play, man, out there on the island in the perimeter. A guy who can play in the box or, deep in the post, a rangy guy who can make plays on the ball in the air. So I watch this film all the time, and I always have, and I'm a huge fan of his game.
Absolutely. Hey, well, it's been a pleasure. I can hope that you end up in Horns next to John Johnson.
Oh, but, man, that would be amazing.
But regardless, man, good luck with everything. Stay healthy, and you take care.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, I'm here with Nasir Adderley. safety, Delaware. How's it going, man?
Oh, man, it's great, man. We got the W, and I'm very, very happy.
Yeah, so your name went from, I barely heard of it. I watched the film, and I was like, why are people not talking about Nasir Adderley, to skyrocketing when the Senior Bowl hit? What is that? How does that make you feel, and how do you react towards something like that?
I mean, it's a blessing. I came a long way. I worked very, very hard. Made a lot of sacrifices, put in a lot of work. And, I mean, I'm just truly blessed to be here. I'm very honored to be elected a captain, and I'm very honored that the coaches, had a lot of they loved. I got a lot of feedback from them.
Absolutely.
Following this week.
Yeah, it was really impressive, the interception, of course, and basically to seal the game, change the whole momentum. What's it like making a play like that?
Oh man, I mean, it's special, especially given the fact that we won the game, and then just the situation in the game. I always look to make big plays when it's crunch time.
Yeah, and what's one DB that you used to love watching as a kid growing up?
100%, Earl Thomas. I've been modeling my game after him for a very long time. I love the way he plays. I got a lot of respect for him. He's a relentless competitor. He's gonna fly around the ball. He's gonna make plays. He's gonna be a leader on the back end. And he's someone I definitely admire.
And so far, because I'm with Downtown Rams, have the Rams met with you at all?
I met with the Rams. I probably have. It's been a crazy week.
It's been a whirlwind, right?
Almost like every team. But.
And one last thing for you. What can my listeners learn from this year Adderley?
They can learn that I'm going to do whatever the coach asks me to do, and I'm going to do it with 100% effort, whether that's special teams, whether that's a nickel, whether that's a safety, whether that's a corner, and I'm just going to apply myself. I'm going to always, football is everything to me, and I put a lot of hard work into this game, and I want to perform at a high level.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you so much, man. You take care. Good luck with everything. All right, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed all those interviews. It was a lot of fun. I actually remember, I think I texted you, Joe. It was like I was down on my my goal. I was trying to hit at least 10 like last time. I ended up getting more than 10. So, it was awesome. A lot of those guys are really nice guys. Ones that stand out to me. The one that stood out to me, I would say Nasir Adderley. Joe, I've never seen a kid this happy after a game. I've interviewed now like 30, I'd say around 30 players after games and after practices. I've never seen anybody as happy as Nasir Adderley. He was literally, he could not stop smiling ear to ear. Like, it was just like, it was crazy, Joe. But that, that's the Senior Bowl. That was our coverage. Anybody that's looking for, any, articles, any writing from the Senior Bowl, it's all on downtownrams.com. But now we're into the Super Bowl talk. There's a lot to take in, Joe, because media week, you kind of open up a target, on your back. Some guys, they'll talk, and that gets misquoted, and then now all of a sudden there's a giant target on their back, and all sorts of things. But
or they say something stupid.
Which I swear...
Which happens a lot more often than they're actually misquoted or it's taken out of context, like they said.
The Senior Bowl, Super Bowl Media Week, Joe, I think is undefeated in finding at least one guy to say something stupid every single time. It never fails. Never fails.
Yeah, and you had a couple, surprisingly, a couple candidates. Obviously, the biggest candidate, Nikel Roby-Coleman, who... did what the one thing Patriot fans love to see, which is he attacked Tom Brady, which, a lot of it is true. Brady is old. Brady isn't what he once was. But, a lot of times, there's a lot of, just a lot of examples of people opening their mouths and, Brady finishing that conversation. So you don't like to see that, if somebody's following the Rams side. You don't like to see that from the Rams side. But the thing about it is I don't think a Patriot fan can really grab hold of that and hold it over the Rams' head, because it came a day after Patrick Chung said something arguably even stupider, predicting that not only the Patriots are going to win, but they were going to win in such a way that it was going to cause pain in the posterior, so to speak. So
I like that you rearranged those words.
Yeah. So that was probably even dumber than what Nikel did, and I thought it was fat. Coming on the back of what happened in New Orleans. Nikel Roby-Coleman becomes kind of a big story for this Super Bowl, and I think that can go in one of two ways. If Nikel balls out and covers Julian Edelman pretty well, and the Rams win on Sunday, then he backs up his talk, and he becomes kind of a Rams hero. I think he has to, at this point, he has to play pretty well considering what he said, and I think he's going to be fairly significant, because I think they are going to, Julian Edelman is a big part of this Patriots attack, especially in the playoffs. And I think Nikel Roby is going to be, a huge part in covering him. So, obviously the Rams can do a bunch of different things depending on personnel. But I think that's a matchup we're going to see a lot. So I don't know. And then, Patrick Chung, Nikel Roby-Coleman, two guys playing the middle of the field. They're going to have to do some defending on Sunday. Besides that, I can't really think of anyone else that really did anything too stupid. My big memory out of do you have anything to say out of Nikel before we move on?
I just gotta say, I think Nikel Roby-Coleman is one of those guys where if he, like you said, if he has a good game, this all the no call and everything, he's going to be an LA hero. But can you imagine if the call was indeed a call and that was called pass interference? He would be hated. And it kind of goes to show you what the athlete deals with, every single year is, you always come down to that breaking point, and the breaking point can go one way or the other. And right now, Nikel is he's kind of a headline. He's kind of one of the top players. The Rams, I don't think the Rams want him anywhere near. He had an absolute gaggle
around him this weekend.
Yeah, I don't think the Rams want him anywhere near Mike, truthfully. But
did you see today where they're interviewing Les Snead, and he goes, I think we've told him not to say anything. And then the NFL Network guys go, and going down, he's got to say something now because he's with Michael Irvin, and they're interviewing him. And it's like, what? And then after Nikel did his interview, they went back to Les, and Les was like, I give him an A+. He really, it's a really good job of battling back there and responding. So, it's just hysterical how, Nikel has basically said the entire gamut. He said that he pass interfered. He said, It had nothing to do with him. He said that Tom Brady's old. He also called him the GOAT. I mean, he's basically covered all bases and the entire spectrum, and he's basically hit every storyline. You could pick and choose Nick Kell quote for virtually anything. So, it's pretty funny. But, I think what I'm going to remember about this is, about media night, about what the heck do they call it now? Opening night, such a silly name. Is the contrast. I love it when they do the crossover, when they get the two head coaches together and they get the two quarterbacks together and they force them to have a conversation. Did you watch this? How much of this did you watch tonight?
I truthfully didn't watch a lot. I just saw highlights on Twitter.
Oh my god!
But I saw.
Oh my god!
I saw McVay.
You got to go back and watch that part.
And Belichick, and they didn't even seem to like. I don't know. They weren't like looking at each other, and like Tom Brady and Jared Goff are sitting right next to each other. Belichick and McVay were like standing, and they're kind of standing away from each other.
It was so awkward. Belichick.
It's awkward because
McVay,
Belichick decided to wear a freaking suit, and no one understands why. Like, everyone's just out of place, and they're like, why is Belichick wearing a suit? This doesn't even make sense.
He's a 66-year-old man, being interviewed nationally. I mean, of course, I think that you've got this contrast where he's literally twice as old as McVay, and the Rams traveled in those pretty sweet tracksuits, and the Patriots traveled in suit and tie, and it's kind of old school versus new school, and you get that. But the thing tonight was hysterical, where you've got Belichick and McVay are standing next to each other, and it's the most awkward thing in the world. Belichick they didn't even look at each other. Belichick, you could tell, did not want to be standing there next to him, and McVay was like, could feel the awkwardness, kind of like, just like the two of them, like they even tried to talk about the text message, and McVay tried to be like, oh, it's as they're talking about how it's overblown. It was hysterical. And then you contrast that to, Brady and Goff did everything but exchange phone numbers on the air.
Oh, I know.
It was they were like chatting, like the whole thing was like they had their interview, and they went to the defensive, and they were still talking. It was like they knew the same people. Somebody's got to ask Jared what the heck they were talking about.
Did you see? This was funny. So when they panned away a little bit while McVay and Belichick were talking, they're still showing.
You can still see them in the background. Yeah, it was a great shot by whatever producer put that on the air. It was almost like Tom Brady was sitting there whispering to Jared Goff, oh, this TB12 method, I got to get you on it. I got to get you. It's all about
ice cream,
flexibility, and avocado ice cream. It was like he was pitching him. It was hysterical. Just the contrast of the two. The coaches could not, want to get away from each other faster, and it looked like, Goff and Brady were going to leave, and go get a drink together. It was like, what? So
yeah, it was a strange. Because I saw that.
That was the big highlight.
I thought, God, some of these questions, Joe. I mean,
that's what the night is for. The thing about it is, I've been going through. There's a media portal you can go to and download the audio. All an hour for everybody who's at a podium, and so I started to kind of plow through those. And with the Ram stuff, I'm realizing that there's almost nothing new. As somebody who spent every day at Thousand Oaks last week, it's almost like there's, we've got a week left almost a week until the game, and it's almost like there's nothing left really to talk about besides, saying stupid stuff, talking about Nicole Roby-Coleman and all that stuff. I mean, really, it's almost ready for the game to be here, because I don't think we're going to get too much more out of these two teams going forward. Because it sounds like McVay's pretty much done, with his plan. It looks like they're just kind of implementing everything, and they seem ahead of schedule. And I don't know. It's Monday when we're talking right now, Monday night, and it almost feels like it's Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, that whole 2 week, like waiting 2 weeks for the Super Bowl doesn't even like occur to me because, being in Mobile, I mean, when I was in my hotel, they covered the Rams and Patriots on NFL Network like nonstop. Like it was a loop. But aside
well, it's
from
kid
that,
in the candy store if you're a Rams fan. I mean, it's great being in the bowl and having your team be on NFL Network constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I would say, really aside from that, people aren't like constantly talking about the Super Bowl. So like when you're in like Mobile, it's like people are just talking draft and they're talking prospects.
Right.
I heard more about Harbaugh's extension on a bench than I did about the Super Bowl when I was at Lad Peebles.
Yeah, but you were there, and I had the opposite experience because I was in Thousand Oaks, where every reporter in Southern California was jammed into the media room, and and we were talking about this game every which way, and so I guess that's kind of we're both products of kind of our experience over the last week. But it is. I don't know. Let me ask you this: as a Rams fan who's waited, a decade and a half for his team to be back here, and what do you want to do with the next 4 days? How are you going to prepare? How's your stomach going to be? How nervous are you for this thing? What's riding on it? As a Ram fan, give me Jake's. I guess emotions going through the next 4 days before we kick off.
Well, I have to go back to work, so there's that. But no, I think really it's an interesting conversation to have because while the Rams look primed for a dynasty run if they win the Super Bowl, I mean there are teams in the past that have looked primed for huge runs and they lost, and you saw the implosion. You're talking about the Carolina Panthers when they lost to the Patriots the first time. That hurt them. When the Panthers lost to the Broncos in the Super Bowl with Cam Newton, that just completely changed the trajectory of this team, in my opinion. I don't think they ever get back. The Falcons, they lose to the Patriots, give up 28-3 lead or whatever. I think ever since then, they lose Kyle Shanahan. Matt LaFleur doesn't want to stay and become offensive coordinator. He chooses to go with the Rams. And now it's like you're stuck with Sarkisian. And, I mean, he's just, no. I don't even know who their offensive coordinator is now, but I know Sark is fired. So, the Falcons kind of fell into a hole, and the Panthers fell into a hole. The Rams, 17 years ago to the date, in that Super Bowl when they lost to the Patriots, they kind of fell into the hole. So it's great to be there, but at the same time, if you lose, well, unless you're the Patriots that lost twice to the Giants, you're kind of in a rough spot. So this is the intriguing, part of this. Are the Rams going to, jumpstart a dynasty, try to, Sean McVay, talks about, copying offensive plays and things that he likes. Is he going to copy Bill Belichick and the Patriots dynasty, or how's this going to go down? Because if they lose, I mean, you can't imagine with that much talent they go into a tailspin, but you've seen in the past where teams have just gone down the drain. I would even say the 49ers, losing that Super Bowl, the power outage and everything against, the Ravens. But at the same part of it, you get kind of plucked when you win the Super Bowl. Obviously, you'd want to win the Super Bowl, but it seems like you're going to lose some things either way. But if you lose the Super Bowl, it kind of can send you into a tailspin. Joe, I'll be honest with you, I was more worried about the Saints game than I was about that I am about the Super Bowl, and that can change. I mean, it's early on. Keep in mind, the first week doesn't even occur to me. It didn't even feel like I waited. I was working the whole time on the Senior Bowl coverage, and so that doesn't really even feel like it happened. It just feels like I waited a week. I'm now going to have to wait a week for them to play. So I don't really, this is the beginning of the week. I don't really know how I'll feel towards the end of the week. Obviously when you talk about the Patriots, they can beat anybody. You're talking about the best team in the NFL, in my opinion, it's the Rams. But, playoff Brady's different. This team is different. It's just once they get in the postseason, you can't count them out. Doesn't matter if they're 7-9, as long as they get in the postseason, they can do damage. So, I just think it's always something to keep in mind. But regardless, it seems like, doesn't it just seem right that the Rams are gonna pull this off? I mean, the storybook ending, obviously, to the 17 years ago to the day, Belichick and Brady start a dynasty against this team, and the same team gets a chance to beat them 17 years later.
To end it. Say what it is. Get a chance to end it.
It just that seems pretty crazy to me. And I mean, the Eagles already got their revenge because they played the Patriots twice. So the Rams get to play the Patriots twice.
And, that's true.
The Patriots lost to the Giants twice. So really, the only team that hasn't been able to avenge their Super Bowl, if the Rams win, that would be what, the Falcons, and who else? That would just be the Falcons. Seahawks, yeah.
Seahawks.
And that's they're all possible, but
and Panthers, Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, and the Panthers. So yeah, and they would have. That's the funny thing. Had the Patriots beaten the Broncos, Panthers would have had an opportunity as well. So very interesting stuff there. I don't think everybody will get their shot at redemption. I know the Eagles were first, but I think the Rams can definitely be the last team. And regardless, I think the Patriots will have Brady. But, my father brought this up. There was a time, with the New York Yankees where they would win. And finally, they lost twice, and it changed everything. They weren't nearly, the World Series contender that they were, prior to those two, World Series losses, and kind of put them in a little bit of a tailspin when you factor in what the organization had become. So, that could be the case. I mean, that would be 2 straight Super Bowl losses for the Patriots. Tom Brady getting another year older. And, we still haven't heard from Bill Belichick on how long he wants to coach or anything. So it'd definitely it'd be interesting.
Yeah, he's getting up there too. He's in the upper 60s, and so how much longer can he go? The big question is who would go first. But I do think that this is a game that could definitely go either way, even though poetically it probably can only go one way. Storyline wise, but I do think that. There is a way for the Patriots to win this game. They have the offensive line to do it. They've got, the back out of the backfield to do it. Obviously, they have the quarterback to do it. I'm not quite sure if they have the defense to do it, but I think you got to love, Brady against Phillips again in the playoffs. You got to love, Belichick against McVay. You got to love, just so much of, the matchups of this, and it'll the Patriots offensive line against Brock or Sue and Donald. There's this history of all these great defensive players the Patriots have gone up against on the line, not doing anything in these games. And so, I do think it's going to be even harder for Aaron Donald to kind of have the sort of game that people are going to expect out of him. I think, because, when the Patriots have played J.J. Watt, when they've played, look at those 3 defensive linemen last week for Kansas City. Chris Jones, Justin Houston, and, the only, big play any of those guys made was the offsides that kept the Chiefs from winning the game. So much of that Patriots offense is, designed to kind of take that defensive line out of the equation. Even though if you look at the Super Bowl last year, obviously defensive lineman made the game turning play for the Eagles in that huge offensive firepower of a Super Bowl. But I do think a lot of this is going to come down to Peters and Talib and Roby Coleman, kind of holding up their end of the bargain and staring down Brady.
Yeah. I definitely hear you there. I think, when you look at this game as a Rams fan, you have to obviously worry about the little X factor, and that is James White. I think this is somebody that has the experience of taking over a football game. If Brady isn't able to go down the field, obviously going up against Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib, he was very quick to give them a lot of credit and, mention them today. I think it's pretty obvious when you have talent like that, it could be a little trouble for a guy like Chris Hogan, Phil Dorsett, Julian Edelman to get open. The Rams have a really good secondary on paper. Marcus Peters may have not played up to par this year. He has gotten better throughout the playoffs, and he didn't do it all himself, but Michael Thomas pretty much got shot down in the Saints game. So, I think the Rams are kind of, running with this, momentum boost. Like I said, losing those 2 games were really going to help them. Just, being able to face that adversity to come back from that. But also, when you talk about, throughout the year, when you talk about losing a guy like Talib, the Rams learned how to play without him, but they were more appreciative when he came back. They learned, how to play obviously with him. And Talib's been huge. Getting Barron back, and playoff Barron has been something else. I don't think he's getting nearly enough credit. The run game, they're still smaller. They're smaller linebacker group, so they can get gashed in the run game, but Barron has definitely improved. Really, the one thing I would worry about as a Rams fan is, LaMarcus Joyner giving up that giant, big play that Tom Brady will go to at the end of the game if it's in a nail biter, and Rams fans are literally sitting there like freaking out. Me saying that right now, just having thoughts about Ted Ginn, making that catch that ultimately led to that call. The no call even being a thing, because right there, second down, third down, and Breeze is just throwing up a prayer. Not a good throw, and
it's terrible. It should have been picked. It had to have been picked. The funny thing about this, I remember tweeting right after that, the Saints really have to screw this up now, and boy did they.
Yeah, and it's funny because I also saw so many tweets like, okay, well, that was LaMarcus Joyner's last chance to be re-signed after the season. I don't really know how that's going to go down. I wouldn't expect him to be back unless he takes a huge pay cut. But, it's hard to obviously throw away the season before because you could say, well, it was a contract year, and so he, some guys play better. Obviously, a lot of guys play better when their contract year's coming up. But could I not make the argument this is also a contract year? He's on a 1-year, $11 million deal through the franchise tag. So, you could. I feel like you definitely can make the argument that this was also a contract year and he just struggled. And whether that's fate or whatever, it
was a contract year, sure.
It's. Huh? But really, this will come down to. We can talk about all these matchups all we want, but this is going to come down to how well does Jared Goff play in his first ever Super Bowl? How well does Jared Goff play when he's under pressure? Because, the Patriots have a lot of talent. Trey Flowers is phenomenal in the interior, and I think
another free agent.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he could be, a scary. I think he's going to be huge. If he dictates, say, if he runs over Sullivan all game long and they try to double team him, well, now it opens up, opportunities for other guys. So, I think Trey Flowers could really pose a threat in the interior position. And Jared Goff is best, when he gets pressured from the edge, he's actually better than when he gets pressure right up the middle. You would think the opposite, because some of these quarterbacks in the NFL do a great job. They get pressured up the middle. They can step out of the way or move out of the pocket. Goff prefers edge pressure. You see guys come at him, and he kind of turns into a turtle shell. So, that'll happen. So it's up to the offensive line. Tough task to keep him healthy, obviously, but also protected.
It's what we saw. It's what we saw in the Chicago game and the Philly game. The pressure up the middle really affected Goff. It sped him up, and that's why he wasn't the same quarterback. And that Trey Flowers, it's certainly one way that the Patriots can win this game. I mean, later in the week we'll really go. We'll go into the matchup more, but I don't know. Anything else we want to do on kind of the outskirts of this thing until we really break it down later in the week?
I mean, I'm sure, we could talk about this all day, but yeah, exactly. We're going to be breaking this down later in the week. We want to give you guys a full podcast, spending time on the Super Bowl. We felt like, earlier in the week, it's perfect time to kind of talk about media night a little bit, tease the matchups and obviously, discuss the Senior Bowl because we didn't have a podcast, during the Senior Bowl. So we have that all out there. Joe, I think that's going to do it. I think, I'm confident. I think we got to everything that we wanted to do. Obviously, like I said, we could go on and on and on, but we'll save that for the Super Bowl podcast, and we'll have to do something for the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't know what.
We should do like either a maybe like a joint Facebook Live in the morning, like in the pregame, or some sort of Discord chat, something live, before everyone kind of settles in and really, something that's done an hour before the game, like it's over at least an hour before the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Think about what you want to do, and we should do something for people that want to interact. And
yeah, 100%. Maybe a giveaway. Also, I don't know. I'm feeling like we got to do something big because it's Super Bowl. But I do also want to let you guys know, because, this has been, obviously it's been Downtown Rams podcast, but it's also been a little bit of a draft-minded podcast, at least the first half of the show. So I do want to let you guys know I will be doing a draft show. For all the Rams picks, I will be doing, it'll either be a live podcast, Facebook Live, whatever, but I will be breaking down each Rams pick right after they're picked, and we'll try and team up on that, because I know a lot of people last year, Joe, like they'd be like, who is Okoronkwo? And I'd be like, I've watched this guy's film more times than I can count, so let me just break this down for you, and it's like, It'll be cool to be able to do that. So, Joe, obviously I welcome you to do that with me. We can do something. I'm going to have a studio set up, likely, working on that. So,
look at you.
Yeah. So, we'll try and knock this out of the park. I meant it, when I put on the Discord channel, for those of you who, are on there. I meant it. We're going to be nonstop draft coverage. We're going to get you guys educated if you want to be educated, if you don't know what you're talking about, you want to be the man at the water cooler, naming off the top quarterbacks in the draft, by all means you will be able to be that guy, because we are going to get you there. There's going to be plenty of content. Really excited to be able to enjoy a Super Bowl, possibly win it, and then go right into the draft. I mean, it's really my bread and butter. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And of course the podcast is going to, be a thing. I mean, like, I've already had people ask, are you going to be doing podcasts throughout the off season? Absolutely. Now, we're not going to do them every day, and we're probably not going to do them twice a week until I'd say the draft, Joe. But, probably one healthy sized podcast with some interviews, and we'll make this thing fun, and we'll make it work, because I feel like we've done a good job with it. And I think Joe's really becoming an integral part of this podcast. I mean, he's always been, but now it's like, man, this guy is the straw that stirs the drink. So he Joe's like, why would you say such a thing? Yeah, Joe, you're the Reggie Jackson of this podcast. So
I've never been insulted so well before. All right, well, thanks, Jake. I appreciate it. We will go deep into the Super Bowl later in the week. I do, if anybody out there doesn't listen to that podcast, if this is your last Downtown Rams podcast you hear this week, I want to wish you luck on Sunday, and do everything you can to enjoy it. There's 30 other fan bases in the NFL wishing they were still around, and they're going to have to watch you on Sunday.
Yeah. So that's going to do it, guys. This has been episode 152, Senior Bowl, Super Bowl podcast. For Jake Ellenbogen, he is Joe Curley, and we're signing off. So until later on in the week, which is likely Friday, we will be back then, but we're gone for now. Take care, guys, and have a good one.